Hello, this is Antoine Garth from Garthastro.com, Garthastro Healing Arts, and today we're going to talk about planetary strength and why it matters. And it really, 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 really does. And we're only going to look at two different types of planetary strength. We're going to look at essential dignity and accidental dignity, but we're going to really spend a lot of time, or most of our time, on essential dignity and debility. So what is essential dignity? Essential dignity refers to planetary strength by sign placement. Essential debility refers to planetary weakness by sign placement. So essentially, dignity means strength. Accidental dignity refers to planetary strength by house placement. And you can see here the strength of houses from strongest to weakest. If you've seen my other video from the birth chart interpretation series about advancement versus retreat, and we recently learned that planets are in a state or considered in a state of advancement when they are either in angular houses or succeeding houses, and they are considered in a state of retreat when they are in cadent houses. As you can see here, the four strongest houses are the angular houses, 1, 10, 7, and 4, and then 11, 5, and 2 come right after. Those are three succeeding houses. 8 is the other succeeding house. But as you can see, those are considered, those seven are considered the strongest houses of the chart. So any planet that's in those 8 houses, which would include the 8th house, any planets that are in that 8th house, those would be, of those 8 houses rather, those would be considered in a state of advancement. And this is why you have the houses in this particular order: 1, 10, 7, 4, 11, 5, 2, 9, 3, 8. It should be 9, 8, 3 actually, but you get my drift. Okay, let's talk about domiciles, because that's the main way in which a planet can be essentially dignified, is to be in a sign that is of its own domicile, or a sign of its own domicile. And so as you can see down here, each planet owns 2 domiciles. The sun and the moon are considered a composite. Why? Because the moon is considered a reflection of the sun's light. So, and also because the sun and the moon each rule only one planet. Each planet owns 1 masculine diurnal and 1 feminine nocturnal. Diurnal means daytime, nocturnal means nighttime. So there needs to be an androgynous pair for each planet, which means the sun and moon need to become a composite androgynous pair in and of themselves to create 6 pairs. So the sun and moon are an androgynous composite, with Leo as the masculine diurnal and Cancer as the feminine nocturnal expression. Then Mercury has Gemini as its masculine and Virgo as its feminine. Venus has Libra as its masculine and Taurus as its feminine or her feminine. Mars has Aries as his masculine and Scorpio as his feminine. Jupiter has Sagittarius as his masculine, Pisces as his feminine, and then Saturn has Aquarius as his masculine and Capricorn as his feminine. And so you can see this is a very tightly knit system of androgynous pairs here. Okay. Planets that occupy either of the signs that it owns are considered in domicile and strong and durable in effect. And strong and durable is a really important part of this definition. There is a consistency and a durability to planets that are in their own signs. Additionally, any planet in its own sign can express its particular signification. So Mars is war or contention or action, Venus is beauty, pleasure, love. So if a planet is in its own sign, it is able to express itself as per its own particular significations. An example is Mercury in Gemini. Mercury is in his domicile of Gemini. Gemini is the masculine diurnal expression of Mercury. A planet in its own domicile is like a person at home in their own rule. Think about when you're at home in your own rule, or think when you leave your home and go to someone else's home where you don't feel comfortable, and you go back home and you're finally able to sit on the couch that you think about when you, way back when I was a kid, you would go to people's homes and there'd be plastic on the sofa. right? And so you want to be able to go home and sit on a piece of furniture that doesn't have plastic on it. That's having a home under your own rule. Exaltation or kingdom. So the exaltations of the planets. So as each planet owns two signs, there's also one sign in which it is exalted. Now remember, the sun and the moon are considered a composite. So here we have the Chaldean order, which we talked about actually in one of our last videos on aspects and applying versus separating. So Saturn is the slowest, Jupiter, then Mars, then Sun, then Venus, then Mercury, then Moon. Saturn is exalted in Libra, Jupiter in Cancer, Mars in Capricorn, Sun in Aries, Venus in Pisces, Mercury in Virgo, Moon in Taurus. Notice that Mercury is the only planet that's exalted in his own domicile. A planet in its exaltation is like a person who is in their own kingdom or glory. Exaltation is considered less grounded and durable than domicile. So when you think about a kingdom, especially if you think about a kingdom that may or may not be inherited, or even think about a kingdom that's inherited, often there are others that vie for the same throne. Often there is all kinds of intrigue in order to get the throne away from you. Often there are enemies or other kingdoms that may want to encroach on your own land, by which you may lose your kingdom. So think about the difference between domicile, which is when you're at home on your own land, in your own casa, and then think about when you're exalted and how exaltation is less grounded. There is a less grounded kind of action, and so exaltation can sometimes have a type of non-reality that goes with it, or inflation that goes with it, right? Because it's feeling kind of puffed up on its own power, or perceived power, shall we say. So essential debility, an essential debility, a planet is an essential debility if it is in the opposite sign to a sign it either owns. So if it's in the opposite sign to a sign that is its own domicile, or a sign that is its exaltation or kingdom. And so we can see that here. Detriment or fall, when a planet is in the opposite sign to its domicile, it is said to be in a condition of detriment or estrangement. I love that term, estrangement. And when a planet is in the opposite sign to their exaltation, it is said to be in a condition of fall or slavery. I like slavery for fall as well. So domicile, detriment, or the opposite of domicile is detriment or estrangement. The opposite of exaltation is fall or slavery. So exaltation, fall, kingdom, slavery. I like that way of looking at it. Kingdom or slavery is the way of looking at planets that are exalted or in fall. All right, and so here we also have the opposite. So we had the androgynous pair prior, right? Now we have the pair of opposites. So the opposite of Aries is Libra. That means if you have a planet that is in domicile, whose domicile or exaltation is Aries, then it will be in detriment or fall in Libra. Same goes for Taurus and Scorpio. Same goes for Gemini and Sagittarius. Same thing goes for Cancer and Capricorn. Same thing goes for Leo or Aquarius. Same thing goes for Virgo and Pisces. And now we'll actually look at a fantastic chart that gives us all of it. So as I said, in Aries, there's a planet who is, or rather, Aries is the domicile of a planet, and it is the exaltation of a planet. It is also the detriment and fall of a planet. So we see all four here. Aries is the domicile of Mars, the exaltation of the Sun, the detriment of Venus, and the fall of Saturn. Taurus is the domicile of Venus, the exaltation of the Moon, the detriment of Mars, and no planet is fallen in Taurus. Gemini is the domicile of Mercury and the detriment of Jupiter. Cancer is the domicile of the Moon, the exaltation of Jupiter, the detriment of Saturn, and the fall of Mars. Leo is the domicile of the Sun and the detriment of Saturn. Virgo is the domicile and exaltation of Mercury, the detriment of Jupiter, and the fall of Venus. Feel the differences of each of those planets as we look at this. This is just so interesting. The difference between what Aries, how Aries exalts or strengthens, and who it strengthens and who it weakens. Just like we just got here to Libra, or have we gotten to Libra, or we're here with Virgo. Mercury is very, very much strengthened. Jupiter and Venus, the benefics, are weakened here. Libra, Venus is the domicile of Libra, is the domicile of Venus, the exaltation of Saturn, the detriment of Mars, the fall of the sun. The two hot and dry planets are detrimented in this particular sign. Scorpio is the domicile of Mars and the detriment of Venus, and the fall of the moon. The two female planets are detrimented in Scorpio. Jupiter is the domicile or rather Sagittarius is the domicile of Jupiter and the detriment of Mercury. Capricorn is the domicile of Saturn, the exaltation of Mars, the detriment of Moon, and the fall of Jupiter. Notice how both malefics are strengthened in Capricorn. Aquarius is the domicile of Saturn and the detriment of the Sun. Pisces is the domicile of Jupiter, the exaltation of Venus, the detriment of Mercury, and the fall of Mercury. So Pisces is the fall and detriment in the same way that Virgo is the exaltation and domicile. And notice here that it's Pisces that really strengthens the benefics. What was it here? It was the benefic or the malefics were really strengthened in Capricorn. I just wanted to come back to the accidental dignity chart for a second so that we could see. You could see those things if you wanted to. Once again, get a look at that. And then I thought I would come to some charts. So we're going to look at just one of the things I love, like I said, to look at is when people ask specific questions about their life on Reddit, not when I get the last few years have been terrible, or I've always been misunderstood, or I suffer from anxiety, that kind of thing I'm not so interested in. It's when they say something specific, like, why is my love life screwed up? Or why don't I have any money? Or I always seem to get what I want, or I never seem to get what I want. And those are really important to me because then I'm looking to see, well, why is that the case? And does it have anything to do with some of the things that I think are maybe important? And almost always they do. Almost always they have to do with something that is important. And so this one is, why do I have so much bad luck? And what I thought I would do is we would look at what's considered good luck in the chart and what's considered bad luck in the chart and see what's strong versus what's weak based on this idea of essential dignity. So understand one thing. In ancient astrology, the fifth house is called good fortune and the sixth house is called bad fortune. So we're going to use those two houses to look at just this particular question. Why do I always have such bad luck? And just looking at it through this lens of essential dignity. So the fifth house, the ruler of the fifth house, well, Aries is on the cusp of the fifth house, and there's the sun, which is an exalted planet. So that's a nice thing. But the sun is not the ruler necessarily of the fifth house. Well, I mean, technically, for those of you who know about unmutants and don't get smart, but technically the sun is not the ruler of the fifth house. The ruler of the fifth house is this Mars. And Mars is in the sign of Taurus. Now, if you remember from our presentation, Taurus is the domicile of Venus. All of the domiciles of Venus are opposite the domiciles of Mars, which means that Mars is always going to be detrimented in Venus's signs and vice versa. Venus is always going to be detrimented in Mars's signs. So we've got Mars in the sign of Venus, which means Mars is in detriment. Now he's with Jupiter, yeah, blah, blah, blah. We can talk about that in a second. But we're just doing it on the very, very basic level here. And then we wanted to know what's going on with the ruler of the sixth, because they don't get, why do I have such bad luck? Bad luck seems to be, reigning, so to speak. Notice that Venus is the ruler of the sixth house. Taurus is on the cusp, which makes, and Taurus is the domicile of Venus, right? So Venus is here in Pisces. Pisces is the exaltation of Venus. So we have a very strong exalted sixth house ruler, and we've got a weakened, detrimented fifth house ruler. So even as far as luck is concerned, even just from this very, very basic, on this very, very basic way of looking at it, we see, oh, wow, yeah, bad luck is really strong. And bad luck is strong. Bad luck has an ability to be strong. Now, I did say that, the sun could be an mutant of the fifth house here, etc., which could make things a little bit, could alleviate some of this. But this person is asking, why do I always have such bad luck? Right? Always. They're not saying, I just started having a spate of it. They're saying, why do I always have bad luck? This next chart I love. I love it because it is so descriptive. Well, it's so descriptive. This one says, my love life is in a shambles. My love life is in a shambles. Basically, they have no love life. They're not happy with their love life at all. And so when we're looking for love life, we're looking, who's the goddess of love? Is Venus, right? So first of all, we're looking for Venus. And the second thing we're looking for is the ruler of the seventh house, which would bring us intimate relationships. So all we're looking for is essential dignity in this case. And we know that things aren't working, right? If you are watching some of the other videos, you know that we've been looking at consideration 4 in the Bonatti 146 consideration, which is about how things come to be or don't, right? So this is a way that things might not come to be, or this is a way to look at things to be able to see, maybe it's going to come to be, maybe it's not. So first, what did I say? Venus, goddess of love. Venus is in Scorpio, which is the opposite of Taurus, meaning that Venus is in the sign of her detriment. Then we wanted to look at the ruler of the seventh house. Leo is on the cusp of the seventh. Sun is in Libra, which is the opposite of Aries, which is the exaltation of the sun. The sun is in fall. So even just on that very, very, this chart just came in today. So even on this very, very basic level, if you're looking at, can this work, or does this work, or why isn't this working? A way of kind of being able to maybe gauge it almost immediately is noticing if a planet is either in its own domain or domicile, or a planet is in the opposite of its domicile, right? Opposite of its domicile or exaltation. If a planet's exalted or in domicile, then that's a very good and strong thing. If a planet is not, then it's not such a good and strong thing, and it has implications for the houses that the planet rules. And as we can see, that's what's going on here. The sun rules the seventh. It's the only house the sun rules, right? Because Leo is the only planet the only sign that the sun has domicile in, right? So we know that the sun is fallen. So there might be problems even attracting, and then Venus, there's problems kind of expressing expressing love in the way that is a kind of a conventional way that people would understand. So those show immediately kind of what's going on. So we'll come back to this. There's so many different examples. I could do a whole 2 hours of different example after example after example, but we get to see something where it's not working so well. Maybe in the next one, I'll come back and we'll do some where things are working really well. Okay, so thanks very much, and we'll see you next time.